All right. Test, test,
Test.
test, test.
Two.
Hello out there, Convincing Idiots fans! Ow! We are so pleased to be with you, all of you beautiful people this evening. Now, we know that you came a long way. And you worked real hard to buy these tickets that didn't cost anything, but you're listening, you're spending your time, the hard-earned currency of your ears, to be here tonight. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's all right. We're going to roll with it anyway. We are
You
back.
mean rock and roll?
We are ready to rock and roll with it anyway. Back here on Convincing Idiots, segment number 3. And we are back with our Battle of the Bands. And without further ado, I present to you the heartbeat. Well, maybe not the heartbeat. Maybe he's more of like, I don't know, like that rib that you don't need. But he's there. He's an integral part of the team. Dean, with the bands that are still in it, the appendix. There you go.
I am the rib you got removed to suck your own dick.
That makes a lot of sense.
It sure does. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's recap last week real quick. We started with AC/DC against the Beatles, and the Beatles have moved on.
What?
That's right. You were there. We all voted. Soundgarden versus Queen. Queen moved on. Aerosmith against The Who. Aerosmith moved on. And Metallica against Led Zeppelin. Metallica moved on. So on that side,
if you find real quick, sorry to interrupt, but if you find yourself listening to these decisions and you didn't listen last week and you're wondering how did this happen, feel free to go back and listen to last week's, because it was like this, segment number 3. You can skip right to that part and find it if you so choose. So go on, Dean.
You can skip it ahead if you will.
Yes.
So, all right. So after this week, or actually, I'm not sure how far we're going to go. Let's find out. What I'm saying is the next round for that is Beatles against Queen, Aerosmith against Metallica. But now we are going on the other side. Okay. This week, ladies and gentlemen, do you want to go one by? Do you want me to give you all the lineup and then
let's just knock them out as we go. Let it be a surprise. Yep.
All right. Boys and girls, children of all ages, let's start the show with Rolling Stones against the Foo Fighters.
Brian, give us your thoughts.
Tell us what you're thinking.
I like the Foo Fighters. I'm not as familiar with their entire catalog. I mean, I know some of the hits. I acknowledge they're a terrific band. Obviously, from a newer band perspective, they've been around for how many years now? What 15,
since
20
like
years?
93?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, I would venture to guess of the bands that came out of the 90s, they're still one of the more popular bands that have a huge following. They could still go on large tours and everything else. So
they did make a kick-ass movie.
They sure did. We had a lot of fun seeing that. That's right. But the Stones are just too huge. I mean, just millions of, several hundred million, I'm sure, album sales, been around for decades, super influential, somehow managed to keep, the majority of the lineup together, except for, minus, literally death of the drummer for the most part. Mick Jagger, one of the more iconic figures in rock and roll history. I think he's got a decent voice and just his whole presence out there. I don't know. Like I said, I think the Stones are just too big. So are we voting now?
No. We can go back to voting.
Just making a case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it. So just I think the Stones is just a very huge, iconic band, super influential. You know, a lot of people argue back and forth some of the greatest bands of all time. Some of the, between the Beatles and the Stones, it's typically
Sure.
two of the bands you get down to from the they came out of England at the very least. So if not in general. So
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Nick, do you have an argument?
I have thoughts. You know, a lot of what Brian is saying is true. You know, both great bands in their own right, different eras, you know, different legacies, all that type of stuff. The Rolling Stones, though, I gotta say, I mean, I know they're one of the legendary bands, but let's face it, they're not even the best way to roll, right? We all know that the best way to roll is on an electric bike from our friends at RPM Bike Shop. Okay, RPM Bike Shop is not across the pond. Okay, RPM Bike Shop is just across the highway in Carrollton, Ohio. If you're in northeastern Ohio, our friends at RPM Bike Shop have the finest selection of electric bikes to offer you. That's right. They don't need to rely on fancy electric guitars and electric amps. No, just an electric bike. All right, for you and for you to get around your city in. So if you don't believe me, feel free to check them out for yourself. Go to Facebook and search RPM Bike Shop. You can see the fine products that they have available for you. You could even message them, and on there you will probably also find their phone number, 330-808-7792. You can give them a call, talk to one of them today, and have yourself a lovely little chat about electric bikes and perhaps your future with one. You can also go to their website. That's rpmbikeshop.com. So,
Nick, I just pulled that up on the Facebook. You tell me I could own my very one of these bikes?
You absolutely could. That could be your future.
What?
That's right. So feel free, you and Dean and Brian and me, and tell everyone you know to get an electric bike from RPM Bike Shop and rock into your electric future today.
I'm going to get so much pussy.
That's right. I'm going to beat it up. So yes, I don't really have too much to stray from what Brian said. Same deal. I love the Foo Fighters. They're a fantastic band, especially their early stuff and stuff like that. The Rolling Stones is one that like I never really appreciated that much until relatively recently. And I think it's just maybe getting older or tastes and things or appreciating different types of music in different ways. But the Rolling Stones, like you said, Brian, people often have that conversation or that debate of who's the best band ever, and they're widely considered one of the best bands of all time. And I do think they're a fantastic band. So I don't know, you summed it up really well. I kind of mirror your thoughts there. So, Dean.
Okay. Well, let me just get it out of the way. Brian, that is a valid point. You know, people do make that comparison. Best bands ever. It's the Stones or the Beatles. All right, I'll give you that. But the Foo Fighters, especially for this it is our generation's rock band, so to speak. It is one of the last good American rock bands. You know, you have don't get me wrong, you have a lot of different bands out there, grunge, or not grunge so much, but you know, different genres of rock bands out there.
Yeah, subgenres of rock music. Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Subgenres.
Yeah,
they are like the last American rock band, just solid rock band, like the Stones. And again, I get that they're not American, but you get that what I'm saying is the last whole put together, just not heavy, not metal, not anything else, just a good solid rock band. That's why, I mean, full disclosure, they were one of my choices with the Foo Fighters because they're one of my favorite bands. They're one of my favorite bands, not just in this era, but all eras.
Yeah.
Dave Grohl is a musical genius. Anything
he's a personality genius. I just love him. His personality.
He is fantastic, isn't he?
He's just one of those people you would love to just hang out with.
Now, the question is, Nick, do you want to disappoint such a personality genius by voting against him? That's something between you and your God to decide.
I doubt we're going to be shooting black tooth grins together and eating hot wings if I don't pick him. So,
if I was him, I wouldn't. But on the other hand, like Nick said, when I was younger, I didn't really appreciate them more. But the more I hang out with Brian and realize that old people do have value in this world, I did grow to appreciate them more. So yeah, I'm torn. So yeah, I think both. I could put a valid argument to both. So why don't we start the vote now? Since Brian, we started with you. Why don't we start with you again?
And Brian, the Rolling Stones were a submission of yours. Is that correct?
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Well, it's Dave Grohl is just like us, a huge talent coming out of Ohio. So he does get some extra points in that respect.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's like a mural. What town is he from? Do you remember?
He's from. Is it? Where's Modern Methods Brewing? Is that out? Where is that? Where they have Dave Grohl Alley? Is that Warren? Is that Warren?
We'll look. Maybe that's right. We'll look it up. We're in the
Warren
same mural.
Sounds accurate, but I'm looking it up here.
We're in the same mural, I think.
Warren, Ohio.
As Dave Grohl. Mm-hmm.
Warren, Ohio.
Yeah, there's not much has come out of Warren, Ohio, ever of anything, really. So, anyway, just overall, I'm sure my age is an influence here as well with growing up and listening to the Stones. My dad was a Rolling Stones fan. I had access to Stones for local radio. You had Rolling Stones. But there's more than just the 3 or 4 songs that you hear on the airplay when you really get into their catalog further.
My dad was a fan of Jay and the Americans. I didn't add them.
Yeah. But just a lot of good stuff. And similar to the Beatles, we talked about the Beatles last week, how they evolved. They had different sounding albums and vibes, and they've made a blues album not that long ago, the Rolling Stones. So overall, I got to give the edge to the Stones on this one, if nothing else, for longevity and again, just a little bit bigger of an influence, in my opinion. Nick, what do you think?
I'm thinking so. I mean, for my personal liking, what band do I put on more to listen to, or what band do I want to listen to? Like I said, they're just one of those ones that I appreciate the Rolling Stones, but 10 times out of 10, if it's a 50-50, you're asking me, who do you want me to play, Foo Fighters or Rolling Stones? I want to listen to Foo Fighters. But that's also my age and music that I grew up listening. Not grew up. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, they've continued to make music for a long time, and they're the soundtrack of what they have made kind of goes along with many different periods of my life, and same can be said for their longevity. I just feel like, though, the Stones, this is a tough one, and tougher than what you might think just throwing up those 2 band names. It might seem like it would be an easy slam dunk for the Rolling Stones because they're amazing, but I just feel like, kind of like what you said, with the musical influence, and there again, they have so much. I really appreciate like bands that incorporate a lot of blues and things like that. And I think definitely when you adjust for the era and the time that they came up in, and I don't know, they're just they were kind of more of almost a grungier band for their time. Really, they were kind of that kind of dirty rock band, you know what I mean? And they are really, when I picture rock and roll in my head in a very classical sense, like in a very foundational sense, I think the Rolling Stones are kind of the type of band that I think of. So it's really tight. It's really, really tight for me. I would rather listen to the Foo Fighters personally. That is probably my personal favorite. But I think if I'm going for the battle of the bands, if I'm talking about like the legacy and their place in history and just their overall influence and their pull, I mean, I just can't bring myself to vote against the Rolling Stones. So I'd have to probably cast my vote for the Stones as well.
All right, well, there you have it. The Rolling Stones one, but I'm still going to cast my vote.
Do it.
The music.
Do it.
I have to go on musical. Not just influence, but like the what they can do, what they're able to do. Yes, the Rolling Stones
They're corpses and they still play music. What more do you want from them?
Right, but it sounds like it's all the Rolling Stones. Yes, every band has its sound, but it's I don't know. They don't do as much as the Foo Fighters do. You know what I mean? Musically, I just don't. I don't put them in the same category as the musical IQ as the Foo Fighters. And like you said, Nick, I prefer to listen to the Foo Fighters. If the Rolling Stones come on, they are great, fantastic. But I'm going to lean more on my preference for this, and I'm going to go Foo Fighters. But 2 out of 3 wins. So the Rolling Stone gentlemen, you guys win. The Rolling Stones are moving on to the next round.
Alrighty.
All right.
Who we got next?
For the next matchup, we have this. This is all right. This is the one that I told you guys last week. This is the lineup or the matchup that proves that I did not cheat, because it is the one I wanted to change when I pulled them out of the hat.
Okay.
Because it's so weird and sort of not fair. Like, it is Fleetwood Mac against Tool.
Oh, jeez.
Right. Like, it doesn't make. There's nothing about this makes sense. So, Fleetwood Mac and Tool.
Nora's putting Tool in this bracket to begin with, I think.
Oh, whatever.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So Brian's going to get put out in timeout for a second. So Nick, why don't you?
I will defend my submission. Tool
there
was
you
my
go.
submission.
Defend your
will
Tool
just
submission.
Start off by saying when this idea was proposed, and in my head, I'm going with musical talent. This was the second band that came to mind, because of all the bands that I've ever heard, that I've ever listened to, this is the band that second most impresses me the very most musically. There is no band from a technical aspect. Well, there's only one other band, in my opinion, from a technical aspect that is more gifted than Tool. I just think they are. I mean, they are kind of, if you're looking at progressive rock, we were talking about like the little subgenres of rock, right? Tool is a Foo Fighters of prog rock, I think. They are our generation, or the newer version of the kind of the meccas of progressive rock, with the time changes, just the what they do with the music, with sound. It from the very first time I heard them, they blow me away. They've got the hits on the radio and things like that you'll hear on your standard rock stations. But I mean, this is a band that is very strange. They only come out with an album once every. I mean, I think their last album before the 2016 or 17 album was back in 2005 or 6. They so sporadically come out with music, but they're such perfectionists about what they put out. And from a technical aspect, like I said, they're like really second to none. I'll tell you what, though, and this is not, so people always used to tell me that because I was never really a big Pink Floyd fan, they go, well, you've never listened to them stoned then, have you? And I'm like, well, I don't feel like you should have to listen to a band stoned to appreciate their
You
gift.
should, though, have to listen to this podcast stoned.
Absolutely.
It helps tremendously.
Sure. But do yourself a favor, and if you like to dabble in the jazz cabbage, listen to Tool. It's the happiest your brain can. It's the happiest sensation your brain can feel. I love Tool. I think they're, like I said, just one of the most gifted, musically gifted, talented bands I've ever heard. So the Tool was my submission. Fleetwood Mac is a fantastic band. They are a classic rock band. They make good music, great hooks. I don't need to tell anybody about Fleetwood Mac. Everybody's pretty much familiar with them. So, I don't know what else to say. They're a good, solid rock band. They
And
don't
their name's Fleetwood Mac.
None of them, no Fleetwood Mac song musically has ever wowed me, I guess, or anything. It's good.
Hey,
It's solid
and
pop
none of
rock
them,
music, or whatever.
none of them have covered up a murder for their friend either. So they have that going for them.
So they're not good friends, is what you're saying. They're not loyal. That's what happens when you sleep with the people in the band. It starts, they divide and alliances are formed. It's just bad news all the way around. So.
This is why I'm
But
pissed
I've
off.
covered up for several Dean murders over the years. Yeah.
Well, but the sexual thing, that's why I'm pissed off when you two started fucking. I'm like, this is going to ruin everything.
Yeah, but no, Fleetwood Mac is an incredible band. I mean, obviously they're legendary, they're classics. So both and incredible bands. I'm obviously partial to one, but that's my thoughts. So, Brian, you Fleetwood Mac was a submission of yours, correct?
Yeah, I just put them in just because it just their iconic status over. You know what? And I all kidding aside, listening to you just now, Nick, you have to use one of the old show things. You have convinced me to go back and listen to more Tools. I will give them more. Yeah, I'm just not as familiar as I could be. I was kind of giving you a hard time earlier, but I will go back and listen to more of them.
You always give me a hard time.
Yes,
especially about your Tool.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Just Fleetwood Mac is just one of my favorite bands to listen to. The Rumors album alone, arguably one of the greatest rock. It's not hard rock, but just rock and roll albums, in my opinion, of all time. Just I could sit back and listen to that entire album. There's not a lot of albums that you can. I could say that to where I could just want to play the whole thing, start to finish, and just can enjoy different aspects of it. Just the vocal talent alone of Christy McVie and Stevie Nicks is just it's such easy listening, great music. It just puts me in a good mood. I like it. So that's it. Again, I'm just not as familiar with Tools. I can't really even speak to Tool, really. I can't really give them a fair assessment, to be frank. So,
and they might even be one of those bands that more of their song, you just didn't know, like you didn't realize
that's
who
probably
it was
right.
or whatever.
That's probably right. That's probably right. So I'm not even going to say.
And you may not, you just might not even like it. I don't. That's possible too.
But I'll listen. I'll listen to it. I do like different types of rock. I need to open up my taste more, and I get too stuck in the past.
Expand your mind, man.
Yeah, man. Come on, man. That's right, man.
Do some dope and listen to Tool, man.
Sure. Then go see the Barbie movie. That's a great That's like a good afternoon.
Fucking sick.
No, but that's it. That's it. So
I've been high for 4 days. Fuck.
Dean, what do you think?
Fuck Stevie Nicks. No, no, I'm joking.
We're trying, but it's not that easy, man. She's like real famous.
Yeah. No, I like Stevie Nicks. He's a good dude. All right, seriously.
Stephen Nicholas.
On tour now with actually Billy Joel. That'd be a great show.
Hold on. Why would her last name be
it's rock and roll, man? There's no rules.
Yeah.
Fuck idiot.
Because it's rock and roll, man. God, get with it. Fucking do some dope and listen to Tool.
All right, okay. Fleetwood Mac. I've always, since a child, I've liked Fleetwood Mac. It did, unfortunately, like, if I hear the fucking song Chains again, I'm going to strangle somebody. They play them so much. Again, it's not their fault. They make amazing music, or made amazing music, lyrically, instrumentally. They're like you said, iconic to the point that, if there's any band that deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it is Fleetwood Mac. Now, let me go over to Tool. And Nick, you were slightly askew on your assessment.
Okay.
You touted their musical performances, but let's look at their fucking lyrically. What what he did. Look at,
Maynard's
for example,
wildly intelligent, and just the depth is crazy.
Brian, write this down. If you're going to want to start with one song, go to Schism. The song
Okay.
Schism.
You've definitely heard this. It's probably it's one of their most popular songs. Absolutely, you've heard it.
But like, even if you've heard it, you got to hear it and like almost read the lyrics along with it, right? Because it is one long like story, but it's broken up like you would think it's, oh, you're just listening to a song with a hook. It's literally a story written out.
Yeah.
Of a breakup, and he's when somebody could go that deep and be that like wild out there with like the music and all that, it's very impressive, especially for the day and age that it was started, like where you had, grunge music, and you had, off the ends of hair metal band.
Yeah, they were really at the forefront of the whole industrial rock thing, kind of, and I mean, really like a progressive version of it. And yeah,
it's all very impressive.
That album in Total Lateralis, the one that has Schism on it, is just the way one song fades into the next, and it's this one giant production. It's just really well done.
So I enjoy Fleetwood Mac. I always have. And I've loved Tool, and honestly, that song there, like, I've heard Tool, in my youth and whatnot, songs here and there, and it's played in the background, buddies playing it, but like when I sat down and like I was like, let me like read the lyrics, and I read the lyrics to Schism along with listening to it, and it totally changed my mind. Just knowing what they were, it's almost hidden. You know what I mean? Like how good those lyrics are. So, all right, that's mine. Nick, we started with you. Let's start back with you. Let's start the voting.
Yes.
Who do you have? Fleetwood Mac or Tool?
Yes. Like I said, both fantastic bands. For me personally, like I said, the reason I put them in there is because I feel like they're one of the most musically gifted bands, and that's kind of the criteria I was going off when I was picking my bands. And whether it's partial or there's been definitely picks I've made due to legacy and due to this band, that band, just from a musical standpoint and a technical aspect and the musicianship, and like you pointed out, Dean, the lyrics and stuff, I can't pick against Tool. I think they're one of the greatest bands I've ever heard. They're almost like a super group, but that's just what they started out as. So, Tool, I would have to pick Tool personally, but I am of course a little partial. I do really enjoy the music, but Tool for me.
Brian, what say you? Fleetwood Mac or Tool?
Well, again, I'm not as familiar with the Tool's catalog. Like I said, I need to go back and listen to it and expand. And so, again, I can't really give them a fair shake on this one. So, I might, if Fleetwood Mac was a submission of mine, I got to stick with that and go with Fleetwood Mac from their overall iconic status and just my personal preference. Not even preference, but personal. One of my overall favorite bands.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Dean.
All right. Like I said before, fuck Nick. Stevie Nicks. Stevie. I'm sorry. No. Get this. It's a slip of the tongue. All right. Nope.
Stephen Nicholas.
Stephen Nicholas. I'm down determined to let one of the newer bands through, and this is an easy one. I do enjoy Fleetwood Mac, like I said before, but Tool has a special place in my heart, and it's not just like, oh, I'm a fan. Brian, again, go back, listen to the catalog. Again, they're not probably going to take over Stevie Nicks or Fleetwood Mac for you, but I think you'll appreciate them, and you'll appreciate that they are moving on to the next round.
Okay.
Tool beats Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac songs, I will say, are better to skateboard and drink cranberry juice, though.
Is that right? Okay. I will gladly give that a shot.
Sure.
You ever see that viral video?
The guy on the longboard. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway.
So I just have to ask, because you said you wanted to change this one up because it didn't seem fair. Is that because you thought you and I would pick Tool, or because you thought Fleetwood Mac
No.
is like the
No, it just seems
obvious
silly.
kind of classic.
It
okay.
seems silly to have those two going against each other. Like it just felt wrong. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's two
somebody
complete
else
polar
should've-
opposite worlds colliding. It's like it's just
Correct.
like these are different
Correct.
things.
And again, looking at this, I don't know if Tool would have been different against anybody else either, as in of being a polar opposite.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
there are okay. They might come close to one or two of these guys in the next round, or not round, but next matchup.
Okay.
You two are going to have to do the heavy lifting on this one, gentlemen, because you have Iron Maiden against Rush.
Oh.
I am going to flip a coin, and whoever raises their hand first can go.
I didn't expect.
Take a
See,
nap.
I forgot that we did this randomly because these are two of my picks. So,
All right. Well, if that's the case, then Brian, why don't you go first?
Yes.
Actually, you know what? Here, let me go first, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I keep touching you, because mine's going to be very quick.
Sure.
I honestly don't know a whole lot of catalogs of Iron Maiden. What I have heard of them, they're heavy, they're fun, they're hard, just like me. And Rush is going to be more of a band that I fucking hate. So, Brian, it's your turn.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Maiden, for me was definitely came out. They were very. I didn't come out when I was in high school, but they gained a lot of popularity when I was in high school in the mid '80s range. And I had some of their tapes and stuff. I think probably more because I thought they were kind of cool with the whole Eddie thing, the mascot.
Is that like demon guy?
Yeah.
He looks cool.
One of the greatest mascots and some of the greatest album artwork, period, in my opinion, let alone
that was our beer league on our jerseys when we were the Zombonis. We had Eddie with the hockey stick.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So I had a lot of their tapes and stuff and album. But I didn't appreciate them even in that era, not until really later in life, to where you go back and really listen to them. And I've become such more of a fan of theirs, to a point where I've seen them live a couple of times, including went down to Columbus last October and saw them with a buddy. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
Just musically, from a heavy metal band. You talk about individual talent of every single guy in that band, from Bruce Dickinson's vocals to Steve Harris. Steve Harris is one of the greatest bass players in rock history, period. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. If you go back and listen to his bass riffs, the guy is absolutely incredible. So musically, it's a shame they're not in the Hall of Fame. It's really a travesty. So they've been.
They're not, are they? God, that's so fucking stupid.
They're on the vote again this year. They weren't. I think they're on the vote again this year. They were on 2 years ago, and I hope that they get in, really, just from a recognition perspective. Not that they really care necessarily, but like I say, musically, heavy metal, one of the greatest bands, period. Love their talent. Rush. I acknowledge the fact that, again, these guys are super talented guys. Neil Peart was one of the greatest rock drummers of all time, period. Hard to argue with that. But I'm kind of like with you, D. I like a couple of their songs. I'm just one of these guys that just don't quite get it. And one of my best friends out there and a brother in the world, Tim Lester, might be listening to this. And he is one of the biggest Rush fans that there is, period, to a point where he named one of his sons Sawyer after Tom Sawyer, the song, the Rush song. So, and by the way, he has a podcast out there, Unraveling the Mystery. So if you're looking for just a fun discussion with a very smart man talking with his son about this various subject that interests him, politics, etc., go listen to Unraveling the Mystery on Spotify and everything else here, to give Tim a shout out. I know he listens to our show too, so thank you, Tim.
Nice.
Anyway, that's it. Just I don't quite get it as much, and I'm definitely a huge Iron Maiden fan. So, Nick, what do you think?
Nice. Well, these were both submissions of mine. I love both of these bands. We'll start with Iron Maiden. I picked Iron Maiden because You covered a lot of it there, but I just think they are one of the, when you get into like heavy metal music, I think they're just the most talented band. They're fantastic. They've put out tons of albums. Like when you really go through their discography, and they're still pumping out albums, they're still solid. You don't hear as much about them anymore because it's a different era, it's a different time, for whatever reason. But my God, they just so many great songs. One song I just got to shout out specifically, "The Wicker Man." It's such a phenomenal song. That's a more recent album. That's not more. Certainly not in the in the '80s and stuff when all they're pumping out the hits that you're familiar with. They're just a fantastic band. Like you said, they're great. They put on great live shows. They're still touring and doing their thing. Incredible musicians. And yeah, like in the heavy metal sphere, I just think Iron Maiden is probably like the most talented of them. They've always really stood out for me. So Iron Maiden was an easy pick for me. And then Rush is what you guys both said is that's how they are to people. They are polarizing. There is, I'd say, no in between with Rush. People either love them and think they're gods, or they think they suck and they can't stand Geddy Lee's voice and they don't like him. So I totally get that. For me, Rush is the greatest band. They are the best band. They're not my favorite band. They're not even one of my top 10 favorite bands, but they are the greatest band, in my opinion. They're the greatest band ever assembled. They're just musical. I will never forget. So I've always known Rush to be a three-piece band. I will never forget VH1 Classic one. It's one of my great regrets in life that I will never see Rush live in person for myself. I will never forget, I was flipping through VH1 Classic at the time, had one of the Rush tours on. I don't know which one it was. It was the one with like the little washing machines in the background, or the dryers, or whatever it was, and something weird. And I remember watching that live performance of Rush, and I had no idea. There are many bands that bill themselves as a three-piece, but when they tour, they have many backing musicians, because whether you like Rush or you don't like Rush, there's a lot going on sonically. There's a lot of different instruments being played. There's a lot of different sounds coming at you. Those three fucking guys make all of that happen. Geddy Lee has a bass strapped to him, and he's got this keyboard wrapped around him, and the mic in his face, and Neil Peart's doing this. Alex Lightfoot's just wailing away. Like, sorry, these guys, I just remember seeing them live, and that really pushed me over the edge with them as far as just appreciating their musical prowess, their genius, and the fact
I want to watch a girl suck three dicks at the same time.
But those three guys making all of that happen sonically, it blows me away. So in my opinion, they are the greatest band of all time, bar none. End of discussion. They are the most musically gifted assembly of three guys. So Rush was the first and band that comes to mind when people talk about the greatest band, or when I'm thinking musical prowess, technical musicians, how talented they are and how gifted. Rush is I think the greatest band of all time, in my opinion. So Rush is my formal pick. Although if Iron Maiden was up against probably 70% of the other bands in this bracket, I probably would have picked Iron Maiden, as I did submit them to the bracket as well. I love Iron Maiden. I respect the hell out of Iron Maiden. I've grown up with Iron Maiden and adore them. But I, just off of musical talent, I have to formally cast my vote for Rush, in vain as it may be. But that is my vote. So formal voting time. Dean.
All right. When we submitted these names for the bands, excuse me, I didn't get as excited of any of the bands as I did when I saw Rush, because I could not wait to vote no on Rush. So if the other,
I feel you. That's kind of, and it's not, but like that's my AC/DC feel. I get you, because I'm like, I don't understand. But it's the same thing. It's the voice, and I get it. It's just not for you, and that's. Yeah.
If I would have pulled out of the hat, and Brian would have written down me taking a shit in the bowl, I've been like, yeah, I'd rather listen to that. That's not fair. I actually do want to hear Brian take a shit in a bowl. So my vote is officially for Iron Maiden. Nick, go ahead.
I already did, but
you already
Brian,
did.
you're up.
Okay.
Okay. I vote for Rush again. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching on YouTube, you know who Brian has voted for.
That's right.
But if it is just an audio podcast and you
Iron
are
Maiden.
not watching,
You take his
Iron-
life, but I take. If you know Iron Maiden, you know who won too.
Mhm.
I'm doing a great job conveying the Trooper. Fuck you. Everybody knew it. You knew what that was, right?
Yes.
well, but
You knew what I
was
was
just
doing.
I was just telling them that he was raising the shirt because if this is you're just listening on audio, you don't know that he was just raising shirt. You just thought that you changed your vote mid time here.
Oh,
You started singing
Yes.
Iron Maiden, so I
I was raising
just
an
informing.
Iron Maiden
Yes,
shirt
thank
that I
you.
got at the concert. So yes, I'm going with Iron Maiden on this one.
There
nice.
we
Iron Maiden
go.
is on.
Although again, I acknowledge, like you said, Nick, I acknowledge Rush's sheer musical talent.
Yeah.
So three of the most talented guys
Okay,
that there ever has been. Period. I just
Sure.
don't get I just don't get it
Yeah.
personally. So that's it. Yeah.
No, I get it. I get you.
I will say this: after the voting's done, Iron Maiden is moving over Rush, but I will say that I can respect musically
Mm.
Rush and what Neil Peart does and the whole deal. Musically, yes, but there's just something about his voice that just fucking rips my ass. I can't do it.
Which is weird because usually you like that. So it's just odd that when
right?
it comes from Geddy Lee, you don't like it.
Right. I like a deep bass and rip my ass.
Have you seen the movie I Love You, Man? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Jason Segel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Rudd.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that is a very good. It's true in the sense of that whole Rush fan trying to convince a guy that
And I love that how they highlight that fandom and how just fanatical they are about him and stuff. And it's funny because I was watching an interview with, I don't remember which one of them it was, or if it was both of them, but they were talking. I think it was Jason Segel. He was like, "Well, that's cool." He's like, "I know she got like Rush written into the script. That's really cool." He's like, "But like if you can't get them, like who you writing in instead, or who you gonna go for?" And they were like, "Oh, it's Rush or nobody. Like if they won't do the movie, we'll still make it about Rush. They just won't be in it." They were just like, "It's gonna be Rush no matter what."
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, boys and girls, we are moving on to our last matchup of this round. Boys and girls, hold your hats. We are going with Guns N' Roses against the Eagles.
Okay.
Another polar opposite matchup here. This should be interesting. I'm looking forward to hear what you guys have to say. So let's start with Brian. We're going to go back to you again to start this off. Guns N' Roses against the Eagles.
Are these both your submissions? Or no, Guns N' Roses is Dean.
Guns N' Roses was mine.
And Eagles is Brian's. Okay.
I threw the Eagles in there just in the sense of just from an overall, they're lighter rock, but just the sheer musical talent and popularity. Again, from an easy listening perspective, Eagles is way up there for me as far as just who you want to listen to. It just kind of puts you in a very chill,
peaceful, easy feeling.
Exactly. And again, the Eagles are arguably, again, you talk about sheer talent of each person in the band. Eagles are way up there.
Yep.
They're not going to play a bass riff like Steve Harris and I. That's not what they do, obviously. And it's certainly hard to argue with album sales and overall popularity and stuff like that. So I don't know. I like a lot of their stuff, and again, the Eagles have stuff that's it gets the deeper cuts that are very interesting. Guns N' Roses, that first album, Appetite for Destruction. I mean, it's from a hard rock album. I'll put that album up against a lot of them. I mean, from start to, it's another album, start to finish. Virtually every song on that entire album was a hit, even on the radio, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You can't say that about many albums.
Especially for that time. That wasn't a lot. I mean, that really, you'd maybe get 2 or 3 songs off an album that the record label would really push to the radios, and
Right.
that was pretty much you're done. That's all you really asked for.
That's right. Yeah, obviously, it was a different time back then. But again, even in that time frame, it was you had 1 or 2 songs that they would just hit. But again, a lot of them, like you say, got the radio airplay. MTV and those guys. What I appreciated about them as well, they came out like '87. So I think Appetite Destruction was '87. That was at the height of the whole glam rock and everything else. But these guys still came out jeans and just the whole t-shirt type deal, and they're just like, we're not getting into this whole glam thing. This is our sound. This is what we're doing. Obviously, had some huge albums into the early '90s. And they've certainly reunited. They're back on the road today with the successful touring and everything else here. So definitely one of my favorite hard rock bands for sure. Even though personally, Axl Rose is kind of a weirdo and whatever. But
I believe douche is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, kind of a douchey entitled dude. I think he's probably mellowed out over time and that type of thing. But yeah, so it's a tough one. Obviously, it's opposite sides of the spectrum, like you say, between hard rock and easy listening. Kind of depends what your preference is. So, yeah, this is a tough one. Both very good in their genre. Both very, very powerful competitors in this bracket. So,
yeah,
Nick, what do you think?
You said everything pretty well. I don't know that I know I know the Eagles radio songs. Being that I was born in '88 and raised with my father, I'm much more familiar with Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and like the Use Your Illusions 1 and 2 were very, very popular in my house. I'm not the bit like as far as those bands go, as like Guns N' Roses go. I know the songs, you hear them a lot, I appreciate them, very talented. They weren't always one of my favorites, but they do have those pockets like "Don't You Cry," like when that is my favorite Guns N' Roses song. It's just a great ballad, and I just love the way his voice is at that range when it's not all the way up, to that octave. But definitely a very powerful rock voice. The way he gets up there, and definitely have a lot of respect for them. The Eagles, same deal. What I do know, the songs that I do know of them, I know I don't know as many as Guns N' Roses, but like you said, different kind of subcategory of rock there, but very talented in what they do. Great band, good grooves, good hooks. I definitely have admiration for both, but certainly I was raised much more with Guns N' Roses and much more familiar with that band. So, Dean, speak a little bit on this, would you?
All right, boys and girls, what I have to say, simply, you have Joe Walsh of the Eagles. And what he, again, musically, what he could do,
Absolutely.
I think sets apart from many other bands. Yes, a lot of people could say that the Eagles were, like Brian said, easy listening, but let's look at just the list of songs. Hotel California, probably one of the most famous songs. Peaceful, Easy Feeling, Take It to the Limit, Desperado.
Yeah,
great. Come on. Lyrically, or not lyrically, but lyrically also, but
sure.
How melodic his voice is in that. It's just a beautiful song that's been covered time and time again. And I think that says something about bands or songwriters or whatever, how many times their songs have been covered.
Mm-hmm.
I think that says something, right? That it's so good that everybody wants to take a crack at it. And Desperado has been covered many times. But then you go on the other side, Guns N' Roses. Like Nick said, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 were just ridiculous of what they gave the world, as in not just rock music, but music in general. What's the one song? Let me see here. What? No, Paradise City. No, was that the one? Is that no? Not Paradise City. Which one was for Terminator 2?
A bunch of them. Welcome to the Jungle was in there.
No, that
What
was
was the You Will Be Mine? You will
You Could Be Mine.
Yeah, you will be.
mine.
Yes,
Yeah.
that right there. Like the ramp up to that song. Just I mean, the build to it, and it just explodes. And this isn't an easy choice. I thought it was going to be. But when you have on one side you have Slash and the other side Joe Walsh, both are almost as iconic as each other, just in different
times. Yeah. Different eras. Yeah.
Very. I don't know. Yeah, both are the same to me, just different genres. So,
yeah,
I will have my vote when you two are done. So, this is hard, guys. This is probably the hardest yet.
I'll start with my vote. Appreciate both bands. Appreciate the hell out of both of them. Definitely more familiar with Guns N' Roses. And of the songs that the ones you listed off there and stuff, I know those songs. I'm, familiar with the Eagles. I can hear in my head. I'm gonna come down on the fact of what impresses me more musically, from a musical standpoint. Definitely the riffs and stuff like that Slash provides, and the musical aspect of Guns N' Roses impresses me a little bit more. Is a little more pleasurable to my ears, or to my. I just say impressive when I listen to it. The way it hits me. And yeah, just the connection with it, with their music more so. I would have to cast my vote in favor of Guns N' Roses.
Mm-hmm.
Brian,
that's a tough one because, like you said, it depends on your. Again, these are more difficult when we have the different types of lighter.
I will also
easy
say
listening.
The Eagles probably have better lyrics, like from a songwriting standpoint. They probably are more solid in that regard. So I would give them the edge in that category.
With that too.
Yeah, like that.
It's right. No, it's just like I said, it's more challenging when you have the different types of rock music. But if we're talking about hard rock bands, Guns N' Roses versus other hard, but I don't know. I like Guns N' Roses a lot, and like I said, Appetite for Destruction is one of my favorite albums of all time. Period. Hands down. I bought that tape back in '87 when they were just starting to hit. So the Welcome to the Jungle video was just coming on MTV. I bought the tape thinking it was kind of interesting. I remember just driving around listening to that in my car with my buddy Jim Cunningham, and it's just like, wow, this is just a fucking good album. And then you started to hear those songs come out on the radio and all that. So we were really appreciating that album right when it came out. So it just has that whole album has a whole connection with me for a lot of reasons. And some of those stuff was pretty good. The quote unquote newer Guns N' Roses, but they sort of tapered off. It was that was their sound. They had a few different things they did, but if I want to step back and say just musical talent and the library of songs that I like to listen to, period. It's hard to even say. It's almost Eagles is my submission again for this reason, because I knew it would generate some interesting conversation here. So, from a musical talent perspective,
this had to happen at some point in this whole podcast.
That's right. And you brought up a good point. Joe Walsh was, his own rock band, James Gang, before he came over to the Eagles. Another guy out of Ohio, by the way, another talent out of Ohio. Yeah, and he brought a whole different other vibe to the band, more of an edgier, So from an overall, you step back and look at the library of songs, the lyrics, the vibe, the individual talent within the band. Although Guns N' Roses definitely has a lot of that too. I'm actually going to give the edge to the Eagles as far as overall greatest band. It's a tough one. in part because I want to put the decision on Dean
I
a little
know
bit
you,
here too.
mother.
No, but seriously, it's
No,
a
you're
very
both right.
it's an interesting argument.
There's
You
not a
both-
wrong choice here.
There's
so
not.
there really
You
isn't.
both
There's
made the
not.
right choice. You both 100% made the right choice. I think what it has to come down to for me is I think what it comes down to is exactly what both of you said. Your feeling to the band. Like I have different. Both bands will take me back to a certain place in time in my life. But what is more influential? I hear I hear my brother singing and along, and that's not great. But well, I hear him singing fucking both, so like, I should probably stop thinking about that. No, what it comes down to is that inner feeling of like joy and what makes me happy, because both bands, like I said before, are equal in their own right. It sucks that they're going against each other, but ultimately I'm going Guns N' Roses.
Damn.
I'm going Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses, just straight through, just like you said, Brian. Driving along, listen to that album, you can go cover to cover and just rock the fuck out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it will be fun to see who wins the next round, because that will be against Iron Maiden.
Oh,
Guns N' Roses versus Iron Maiden.
interesting matchup there.
Because
so
that actually ends our first round, boys.
Yeah.
What you want to recap, Dean, with this one, and then who next week's would be? Go ahead.
This week, we have Rolling Stones against Foo Fighters. Rolling Stones moved on. Fleetwood Mac against Tool. It was a tough one, but Tool moved on.
I know that we picked them, but it sounds silly to say out loud that Tool beat Fleetwood Mac.
It does.
I mean, yeah, but it's just from a legacy standpoint, it's just kind of funny.
Sure. Iron Maiden against Rush. Iron Maiden rightfully moved on.
Correct.
And Guns N' Roses against Eagles. That was probably the toughest round toughest matchup we've done. If you guys probably agree with that, Guns N' Roses did move on.
Mm-hmm.
So I will show you guys, and if you're watching on YouTube, I don't know if you can see the matchup here.
Where's our graphics department at on this one?
Yeah, dang it.
I'm it, motherfucker. I'm it. So, yeah. So, the next one we have Beatles against Queen, Aerosmith against Metallica, and on the other side, Rolling Stones against Tool, and Iron Maiden against Guns N' Roses.
So we're the elite. How many is that left? 8? We're the elite,
the elite
8 now?
8. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. That's it.
Interesting ones there.
Who will move on to the semifinals? Yeah,
no, the Who lost, I thought.
Huh?
That would be the quarterfinals.
The Who lost, right?
Who lost? Yeah, you're right. Who lost?
They
are stuck in Whoville. Boys, I don't know what you guys are looking on time, but
no.
What?
So what do you mean?
Well, I was just going to say, let's show each other our dicks.
Oh, I got time for that.
No. You already said no. Nick
one thing we could do, actually, that's only on the Patreon account. But one thing we could do, guys, is we can show each other some of our tattoo work.
Ooh, I can do that
on video.
Look at this.
And mine actually was featured by Scott. I don't know if you saw that or not. He's featured me on the Facebook page. This week here. So
he's saying, "Look at the sexy motherfucker I get to tattoo."
That's right. And Scott is at the Golden Heart Tattoo in Norton. So go check them out if you're in the Northeast Ohio area. At Golden Heart Norton, Norton, on Facebook. Find their website, goldenhearttattoos.com, or give them a call at 234-706-2982. Get yourself a cool rock-themed tattoo. Maybe get the Rolling Stones logo or whatever the heck you want to do.
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden, perhaps. Get yourself a nice Eddie with the next to the Convincing Idiots logo that we assume you already have, of course.
Right.
Or maybe a mashup, maybe an Eddie Einstein mashup or something like that. I like
That'd
that.
be cool.
Idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eddie and Einstein making out.
Yeah. Absolutely. So go check
Not a lot
them
of
out, and
people
we appreciate their response. Go ahead.
Not a lot of people realize it, but they're located right there in Norton, Ohio. Not a lot of people realize that Norton was named after the neighbor from the Honeymooners. The city of Norton was named after the neighbor from the TV show The Honeymooners.
Yeah. And if you're over 75, you probably know that.
All right.
All right. That's a nice
I'm
smooth
guessing that's a
lead-in,
show. I don't
Nick.
know.
The joke doesn't work if none of you fucking know who the Honeymooners are. I'm working with a bunch of children here, people. Give me a break.
That's right.
It's not even true. Like the joke is a fact that it's not true. But you guys don't even know who. Whatever.
Well, guys, I have a peaceful, easy feeling that we're at the end of another episode of Convincing Idiots. So, Nick,
Yes,
you take us out, please, sir.
I will. So, we appreciate you listening to this podcast each and every week. We would like to invite you to do so once again next week. So please feel free to come back and join us again. Before we let you go, though, we must ask that you go and find our social media accounts, like, subscribe, rate, review. All of those are on our Linktree, Convincing Idiots Linktree. Just Google that, Convincing Idiots, LINKTREE. And you will find all of our links there, as well as on our website. That is convincingidiots.wordpress.com. So, for this episode of Convincing Idiots, I am Nick.
Oh, hi. I'm Dean, the Zennial.
Gen X Brian.
Have we convinced you to check back in to the Hotel California with your 3 favorite idiots again next week?
That was a perfect Geddy Lee impersonation.
Was I supposed to be doing Geddy Lee? Hi, this is Millennial Nick, along with Gen X Brian and Zennial Dean. Hey, if you liked that video, which we really hope you did, you should like and subscribe. That would be great.